Welcome to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by Haven, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello, and welcome to the Haven Hubcast. I am your co-host, Nancy Sheed, and I am excited. I'm going to admit I was a little nervous, but also excited to be talking over these next few episodes about all things IT, keeping you safe, keeping you smart, and keeping you productive. And we're going to be talking with Linda Kuppersmith. She is the president and chief technology advisor of CMIT Solutions. And you're going to hear how really smart, really insightful, and actually really hopeful she is about the role technology can play in our lives and our businesses. Linda is also on the Haven Board of Advisors. I've known her for several years, and she has been a go-to person for many of us in the Haven community in terms of all things IT. So listen in, let's learn from Linda, and enjoy these next few episodes. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Haven Hubcast, where this month we are talking about all things IT, keeping you safe, smart, and productive. And we are learning these all things IT with Linda Kuppersmith, who has so graciously spent some time with us and enlightening us on things we need to know, things we need to do, things we should be aware of. And today we are talking about the cloud. Dun, dun, dun. Cloud storage backup sounds a little dry, but when we were discussing it before, you and I both agree it's important. We're all using it. It's a little elusive, and we've got some questions. So, Linda, welcome.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy.
At this point, even though there are probably people who say, I hate the cloud, we're all using it. Walk us through, again, I hate to sound basic, but why it's okay to use the cloud, how it's important to use the cloud. And I think then we're going to get into let's get into some technical, are there better versions of one? Are there better, versions of another, or some better than others? And then the thing I'm sure none of us do as much as we should is how do we back things up? So
right.
Big picture iCloud, walk us through.
Well, let's first of all talk, because I still find that people don't understand what the cloud is.
Exactly.
And so let's have some fun with this, because as you know, I like to be able to help people visualize, all these different technologies. And so the simple answer to what is the cloud is it's somebody else's hard drive. That's all it is. It's a hard drive in somebody else's computer. It's a data center. Why do we call it the cloud? Well, because we reach into the internet and it's all kind of out there in the ether. And I think the cloud is also a great way of also being able to understand that there are many clouds. It's not just one cloud. There's a Microsoft cloud, an Apple cloud, a Google cloud, an Amazon cloud. You name the technology person out there that you can go to in the cloud, they have their own cloud.
QuickBooks, Spotify, right? I'm just thinking of all the other ones that we use, right?
That's right. And then, of course, as we talk about, the term dark web, where does the dark web come from? Well, because it doesn't have this nice, colorful, graphical interfaces, but there are a lot of dark clouds running around out there as well. Not all clouds are created equally. Some are different size, some are different, brightness. Some of them have higher density. There's a lot more to them, and some are very simple and wispy. So yeah, you have to kind of think about that.
Visual. I love that. I feel like we need to have a painting to go along with this podcast of the different types of clouds. See, you're already making a dry subject really fun, Linda. This is great.
Exactly. So, we've got, all of this cloud storage really came out after the big internet players were looking as the free model as a way of being able to introduce themselves and get a foothold into everybody's area. So, we start, with Apple. Apple then gave you an Apple ID, and all of a sudden you had this thing called the iCloud. Well, what is the iCloud? Well, It's where your contacts and your pictures end up syncing to if it's all set up properly. And if you got your iCloud account, there's at least a copy of it in the cloud. So it already is giving you some kind of, I wouldn't say backup, but redundancy, because it is,
Right.
in two places.
Right.
And then we enter, Google, and everybody that gets a Gmail account gets, free, Google Drive. And
Up
so
to a
now you
limit.
sync
Up
it
to a
to their
limit.
phone up to a limit, right? Right. And then you have Microsoft kind of entering the game later on in the world and being able to say, okay, now we're going to give you this 365 thing, this OneDrive thing, different thing. Then you got Dropbox in between there, you got Box in between there, and then a myriad of different things that are happening on the enterprise as well.
Let me go back. So I love that you've actually taken us from this visual, like of all the different clouds, and you're starting to put names on these clouds. I'm going to assume we're not looking at the dark ones. We're looking at the other ones, right? Like you're kind of giving names to these different clouds where we all keep stuff. I mean, I don't think I know anybody who just puts everything all in one place. And if they are, I'm impressed. I don't know how they do that. So what does that look like? By default, as you said, we come into these environments, we start storing stuff. Is that a smart thing to do? Or what do we need to know about, like, kind of taking control, again, as we're thinking about the kind of beginning of the year, good practices? What does that look like in terms of having an understanding of where our stuff is or how to better organize it?
So, like we talked about categorizing your passwords of one and the other, we also need to be able to talk about categorizing your data and what you are. So you've got personal data, you have work data. You have sensitive data, you have not so sensitive data. You have pictures that you're willing to put on Facebook, and you have pictures that you want to be able to keep to yourself or to a small group of people. And so when you put all of this stuff in a cloud, you also need to be aware of whether or not it's safe, it's accessible. The rule of thumb is if it's free, it's probably not going to have too much security on it.
Okay.
As we look at Google, what's Google's business driver? Advertising.
Mm.
They're notorious for being very loose on the privacy standpoint because they feel it's okay to read your information in order to be able to give you targeted marketing that doesn't waste your time.
Oh, you just keep scaring me.
Okay. So,
All right.
Apple, well, they've got the brand is a lot more on that, privacy. We're going to be careful with things. So you're going to get, a better level of security there. Microsoft, you've got a consumer side and you've got a business side. A consumer side, I'd say it's overall safe, but the consumer side is not encrypted at rest. On the business side, it's encrypted at rest, meaning even a Microsoft employee can't read your data. So that's one of the big reasons that I love, the Microsoft side when we're starting to be able to talk about more sensitive data. But I think one of the challenges here is that we buy a computer, we buy a phone, and it's built in with these applications. And poof, click, 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 and all of a sudden you type in and create an account, and you've now given birth to a cloud.
Mm.
And you don't realize it because to you it's just this icon sitting there, and you think all of it. Oh, your phone has contacts. Well, underneath the covers, your contacts are either in iCloud, they're in Gmail, and then if you throw some Outlook in there, so it's not untypical for us to be able to help somebody with their phone because they're saying, well, I put I put one contact in my phone, but it doesn't show up on my desktop. And then
Mm.
when I log onto my thing over here, it doesn't show up. Well, that's because you actually have them in different clouds.
Mm.
We got to come on one cloud that they're gonna use for this kind of stuff. And a classic kind of thing is, with college kids, you send them out with that brand new computer. They're keeping everything locally because we think they're smart, but they're really not. And all of a sudden, the hard drive dies, and they've lost their entire term paper. All they needed to do was set up a Gmail account and set up a little sync. Or if they're on an Apple, they need to be able to set up a little iCloud, sync. And at least there's going to be a second copy of that all important term paper.
Yeah. And or I was going to, the other part of that is then they graduate from high school or college. They don't download everything that they did put in the cloud because they operated in the cloud or the school's system of the cloud. And they don't have
Right.
any history of their papers or all their work.
Correct.
that also might be a generational thing. And you and I still want to share our college papers, but that's another story. But exactly. So that actually gets to that someone, before we go to sort of backing up, I appreciate that you've kind of mentioned these different sort of, let's call them the big clouds, right? The big clouds from a security standpoint. Are there ones that are better for certain functions? Like if we thank you for the security lens, but are there ones that are better for certain functions, right? Like Google Photos makes things really easy, right? We're getting slightly off topic for work, but some things make it easier for calendars. Some things make it easier for, actual archiving. Do you have any recommendations for kind of not just the security, but the type of work or types of things you want to be using the cloud for? Or is that less of an issue? Can they all kind of sing and dance generally the same way?
The decision is more about who you're collaborating with. It's one
Good
thing to
point.
be able to say that I'm saving my data, make a decision, and that's where it is. Now, who am I collaborating with? So as we look at a number of different professions that do have to collaborate, I think that's one of the reasons that we saw a real big market gain in Dropbox, because they made it easy for people to share files. All you had to do is create, and they had an easy way of creating an account. Poof, you have it, somebody shares something out to you. Is it the best way? It doesn't scale. I mean, Dropbox, once you throw 3 or 4 different people at it and try to organize it, it just falls to pieces.
And it can be hacked.
Yeah.
I know firsthand experience that Dropbox can be hacked, and you have been falsely lulled into the fact that you have this great treasure trove of all of your business's assets, and you don't. So, not to shame Dropbox, but that actually is a lovely segue into backing up, right? So we have everything in the cloud. We don't think we have to worry about anything. And I always jokingly say, when Armageddon comes, if it's in the cloud and we don't have it sitting somewhere locally or backed up somewhere on a hard drive that's not tethered, we don't own it. Right. I mean, that's the scary thing to me. Like, I don't own, my photos, I keep mentioning my photos. You can tell what I care about. I would be distraught.
Correct. And here's the thing is the cloud, each of the individual cloud manufacturers, vendors, they back up their servers, because if their server dies, they're going to stand it back up again. That's their obligation to you. But if you delete something inadvertently or it becomes corrupted, you can't go to them and say, please find it for me. And so based on the importance of this information, we now need to be able to make sure it's in a second or even a third place. Traditional backup is we want a master copy, we want a local copy, and we want something that's offsite. As we look at cloud, you typically already kind of have a built-in location, because many of us do have our cloud drive synchronized to our laptop or a desktop. And a lot of people do that. And
I'm making a face. Nobody can see me. I'm making a face at Linda. I'm like, I don't do that as much as I should. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But the negative part of that is that if your machine gets some kind of malicious code, get hit by something called ransomware, it's going to encrypt all of the data on your local drive, and then it's going to float up to your cloud drive. So now your cloud drive is also hit with ransomware.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
That is why you have to have a separate cloud-to-cloud backup. There were actually very few vendors, 3 years ago that were doing this, and you really had to look hard for it. Now there's a lot more vendors, here being able to say, I'll back up your Google Drive, I'll back up your, iCloud or your Microsoft. And so, yes, we do need these cloud-to-cloud kind of backups, or you do copy it locally onto a USB drive. Now, just remember that, that USB drive technology changes over time. 10 years from now, is your computer really going to be able to read it? And it is a mechanical thing that is subject to, dust and humidity and that type of stuff. So yeah, I kind of like, the cloud for the really important
I'm figuring
stuff.
that out.
Yeah.
Again, you're so smart, Linda. You're so smart. Tell me.
16 years of becoming smart because people come to me with their problems, and I hate. I want to be able to avoid those problems.
Well, that's a lot more. We all think it's never going to happen to us until it does, and it's awful. with that, with that fantastic lens of what you've seen, Linda, again, at what point does it sort of get too complicated for one person or a business owner? Or is there certain inflection points in building your business where an IT advisor can literally kind of take this headache away? Is it set up? Is it at, what are the junctures where it makes sense to call a person like you to help either hopefully not untangle, but get this set up the right way so it becomes maybe something that's never going to be a headache from the beginning?
Correct. If you're starting a business and you know that your business is going to end up involving collaboration and you're going to have employees, in this area, you want to be able to touch base with an IT advisor right from the start in order to be able to get it set up and kind of get the right patterns set up. We've unfortunately had a number of cases where people have purchased something like 365 out of GoDaddy, and only to be able to find out after they have 3 people that that's not such a great idea. And now it's very expensive to move them out, but they have to bear that expense because, they want to scale further than those couple of people. Same thing with Dropbox. It's fine if it's a couple people, but you scale it up. So this is an area, and I think for all small businesses, as you're starting out, you should have somebody to be able to go to that says, at this stage, help me think through some of the choices. And then at the next stage, touch base with them again. So just like as you're working with your accountant and your lawyer, there are different needs at the different stages of your company. An IT advisor needs to be a part of those professional team that is helping you to be able to point you in the right direction.
Perfect. I mean, I think that would be such a relief, you know what I mean, to know that you're starting out. Setting up versus untangling sounds a whole lot easier. That's for sure.
Easier, and the expense of moving this stuff is always what makes me crazy, because that too often is taking away from things that capital can be doing much more to grow the business.
Well, Linda, as always, it's been enlightening, and I'm going to keep saying this. You scare us enough, but you give us hope that there are solutions and ways to make it better. So thank you for bringing us that expertise and letting us know sort of what we can do to stay ahead of the curve. So thank you again for making a somewhat dry subject like cloud storage and backup seem much more interesting and making us understand how it really affects us on a day-to-day basis.
Well, thank you, Nancy, for letting me share my clouds with you.
Take care. Linda, as always, I feel smarter, more secure, and more productive on all things IT. How can others who want to connect with you, work with you, learn more, connect with you?
Easy. So go to our website, cmitstanford.com, STAM like Mary, FORD. Look for Linda's Tech Tips on the top right-hand corner. You'll find a whole bunch of information there, and can also sign up for our Tuesday Quick Tips, which will keep you very quickly up to date on all things in small business technology. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and then we also run a YouTube channel which has some original content, but some great playlists of getting you up to speed on different technologies and just different YouTube videos we found that are just very, very informative for small business owners looking to be able to become more educated. You can also...
Fantastic.
I'm going to give you one more. It's linda@cmitstanford.com, and our phone number is 203-595-9091.
Fantastic. And we'll put all that in the show notes. Thank you for being here for this Haven Hubcast. And listeners, please check out the other podcast where Linda is sharing her expertise.
Thanks for listening to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Haven is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. Haven is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the Haven community online at haven.com. That's HAYVN.com. Haven Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.